What do I do with that? You know, like, how do I apply that? But I love her just and now I'm doing some consulting on like work taking some time. But still, there's just social workers and stuff that's like, there's not, it's not hard. Just plug in.
Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing today? It's so good to see all of you, and nice to meet new people and seeing returnees. So I love it. And yes, so we're going to get started this morning. Welcome to our third Stakeholder Lunch and Learn. So my name is Camille Bro, and I'm also honored to host today's panel. And we're going to be talking about bridging the gap, engaging youth in community and civic leadership. So this will be part one series. We have so many other amazing people that want to contribute to these panels. So we're gathered here to ground ourselves and have hopeful conversation about how we build community and stronger relationships between youth, community members, our civic leaders, and our veterans. Because when we build bridges, we all rise. So before we begin housekeeping, everyone knows where the restrooms are at if this is your first time being in the facility. And also we have plenty of food and water, so please help yourself. You can get up anytime, to do so. We try to make this a relaxed environment. And so what we're going to do is begin with the Pledge of Allegiance first. So if you are, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we just come and say, in humble submission, Lord, let your will be done. Give us the insight to hear what is being said and take it and use it as we go forward, Lord. And I thank you for each and every one here right now. I ask you to bless them, whatever endeavor they go into. Bless them in their life, not only today, but going forward. Because, Lord, we know that you're in the blessing business. And we thank you for the moderator for the day, and we ask you to keep her and her family, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So first I would like to briefly introduce our remarkable individuals who will guide us today in conversation. Each panelist brings a distinct voice from financial empowerment, veteran advocacy, to ministry, education, and youth leadership. So we have Shelby Handley-Hutchison. She's the founder and legacy builder committed to equipping underserved communities with tools for legal financial empowerment. As the CEO of Advanced Planning Professionals, she leads with education over sales, offering insurance, estate planning, and notary services rooted in stewardship and trust. She's also the architect behind youth leadership programs like Glam Squad and Young Adult Development Academy. We also have Dr. Reginald McClain. He is retired Navy storekeeper chief, community leader, and longtime educator. He currently serves as the supply technician for the Naval Science Department at the University of Mississippi with a Doctor of Ministry degree and 22 years of pastor at Cypress Grove Missionary Baptist Church. We also have Andrea Toney. She is Miss Black North Mississippi 2025, a U.S. Army combat veteran, mother, dancer, and longtime advocate. With over 15 years of military service and volunteer work across 10 states and 4 countries, she leads with compassion and resilience. Her platform is Honor Her Courage, which amplifies voices of women veterans while connecting them to resources and community. We also have Ms. Dana Wilson, is the former president of Bridges and a champion for youth voice in Memphis. She helped shape leadership development across programs like Shelby County Youth Council and brings years of experience in creating pathways for youth to lead with purpose. And we also have Travis McGlothian. He's a sophomore at Alabama A&M University studying music business, a talented composer and saxophonist. And we also have Richard, who is also a student at the University of Memphis and an advocate, as well as doing a lot in this community. So thank you, and please give everyone a hand. So first, thank you so much. And let's begin with we're going to be having 4 segments, and we're going to talk about roots and leadership journeys, empowering young youth and community members, strengthening civic participation, and building bridges between communities and leadership. And then after the segments, we'll also have questions for questions. If you would like to answer any questions, we'll open the floor as well. So first, let's begin with the story behind service. Each of our panelists has taken a different path into leadership through music, faith, law, military service, or organizing. These journeys help us understand why behind the work. So, Richard, what sparked your passion for organizing, and how has it shaped your path?
So, my pathway to organizing really began in my hometown where I come from. So, originally I'm from West Memphis, Arkansas, and I attended the academies of West Memphis, or West Memphis High School as it was formerly known. And during my freshman year, I, like so many other young black men in the South and throughout the nation, really, so happened to wake up to the news that one of my close friends had become a statistic, had become a victim of gun violence, and had passed away due to a bullet that wasn't meant for him. And I'll just raise his name. His name was Taylor Bell. He was supposed to be going to the University of Kentucky playing basketball on a scholarship. And while he was up playing NBA 2K in his grandmother's house, somebody came through shooting, and a bullet that wasn't meant for him hit him and penetrated his grandmother's house. And from that, I thought to myself, why does a 14-year-old have to wake up one day with one less friend than he had yesterday, the day prior? And that inspired me to go before the West Memphis City Council and offer a slate of initiatives that I felt would mobilize that community forward from the reality of young people losing their lives from the barrel of a gun. And as a result of that, I coordinated with the mayor of the city of West Memphis, Mayor McClain. We put together some initiatives where we wanted to help people who had felonies be able to reintegrate themselves into the workforce to, end that perpetual cycle of coming out of prison and committing crimes and going back in. We spearheaded an effort where we had a voluntary gun buyback program with the city of West Memphis where folks could go to the police department, exchange their firearms for compensation. That was a pretty successful program. And at the time when that happened, 2019, the city of West Memphis was leading the nation per capita in violent crime. It was per capita the most dangerous city in the United States. Since that, it's dropped significantly from that front, and that community has reclaimed its initial glory as it is. They've built new properties. They've helped people be able to reintegrate themselves back into normal society. There are more opportunities for youth in West Memphis than there ever has been, including the pretty staunch aftercare program. But just to sum that up, that's what really inspired my spark. And since then, I've enrolled at the University of Memphis. When I came to the University of Memphis in 2023, a man by the name of Tyree Nichols, which all of you are familiar with that name, was a victim of what I would describe to be a modern day lynching. He was beaten senselessly by Memphis police officers. He was robbed of his life 80 yards away from his mother's house, where he was tased, where he was cursed, where he was kicked, punched, brutalized without any rationale behind why that happened. And that also inspired me to join a group of advocates and organizers within that space to push for the Tyree Nichols Driving Equality Ordinance, where we would ensure that folks were not being hauled over explicitly for having broken tail lights or any infractions like that, and that there was an actual safety concern behind executing a haul-in. And we also tried to move to take unmarked vehicles out of haulovers as well, to ensure that there was some level of transparency ensured in that process. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Shelby, what motivated you to enter estate planning, and how is that a form of community leadership?
Well, believe it or not, I've been this person all my life as a child. Very early on, I found myself amongst underserved communities, even as a child. I'm from the Philippines. I grew up there before I came here later in life. And I just saw a lot of things that weren't good. And so it just awoke up something inside of me that says that there's got to be a better way for this. And what I saw in all of the communities, that there was a lack of planning. Everything was reactive and not proactive. And I just saw an opportunity to lend my expertise in these areas to the community. And as a result of that, I find myself in opportunities like this that I love, because I love sharing the importance of estate planning. A lot of people believe that that's just a legal process, but it's more than a legal process. It's a way to connect with your family. It just brings so much to you. And as a result of being, planning ahead, it just makes you a better and more responsible person. So, a lot of it is just about engaging in these conversations that most people wouldn't have. And so my team and I, that's what we do. We're not limited to just this area. We go wherever the need is. And that's what brought me into this position. And I am a resident of this area, and I do have a business here. So I do find myself really wanting to be involved in these conversations. And I really enjoy the panel here, honestly, because just in the brief time before everyone else got here, there was so much wisdom and knowledge poured into each other. And so that's just what I love to see.
Andrea, so what personal experiences shaped your leadership in community spaces?
I have a lot of experiences, but one that sticks out the most is when I was stationed in Fort Rucker, Alabama. As the winner of the Soldier of the Month award, I was able to volunteer into the community. That was one of our requirements as a winner. And so I went to a middle school and taught a curriculum, and it was so long ago that I don't remember the whole curriculum, but what stood out was we explained the timeline of life, right? So from 1 to 18, you're kind of under your parents' shelter, if you will, and you're listening and following instructions there. And then from 19 to, let's say, average 80, you basically have control over what you decide to do. And so what we talked about was decision making. What were you going to do with all the time that you had? Don't waste it, But what stood out for me as far as what shaped my leadership experiences within that community space is walking in dress uniform, the kids' eyes getting so big, right? They don't know me from anybody, they just see all the shiny medals and things. But they listened and they were so engaged, and afterward they made a pledge that they would not waste one moment of their life. So for me it was being able to walk into a room, have a conversation with someone, and them receiving what I had to say really left a lasting impression on me, knowing that I could, again, have conversations about the most simplest things with people that don't know me and that I don't know them, but they're willing to then take action after that.
Okay. How have your military, ministry, and education shaped your leadership?
Well, it's tied, all three are tied together. And I use one system, it's core values. And it's honor, courage, and commitment. And in the military, you know, you teach your sailors, if they want to be the best sailor, they got to be committed to what they're doing. They got to be honest. No matter what goes on, even if it's wrong, if you did something wrong, be honest about it. Don't go and try to hide it, but be honest. And then you got to have courage. When you face danger, you got to face it head on. You can't run from it, because if you run from it, it's gonna come right back at your head. And then in the ministry, education. Let me go to education next. Education has got to be commitment to the end. You can't start and stop. You gotta be committed to go all the way through. I went from associate all the way up to a doctorate, but I had to be committed to do that. I may have quit, stopped for a while, but I was already committed. I was gonna finish. So you gotta be committed. Then you gotta be brave enough to, when you need help, to ask for help. And then the next part is you gotta have. Did I say commitment already? I did. So I'm good there. And being honest with yourself that you need help. All right. And then in the ministry, very simple. In the ministry, same thing. You gotta have commitment. You can't be in ministry one day and out of the next day. You gotta be committed to do it, even when it seems like nobody's learning or anybody is interested. And then you gotta have courage to not compromise, even when you face opposition. And then you gotta be brave enough to say, I'm gonna stick with this, no matter what goes on. That's my
What inspires your commitment to youth voice and leadership development?
Thank you. So for me, growing up, I grew up in Memphis, and I was a student leader in my high school. So I kind of was afforded this experience of getting a taste of what it means to be working with other people to try and make something beautiful happen. And I think if someone had told me that I was going to spend my life working with adolescents, I would have said no way, because I didn't really enjoy the high school experience, you know. So I would say it's like accidentally I got into education and working with teenagers, and but I think it's like when you fall into that thing and it's like your sweet spot, and you're like, oh, it's like I'm effortlessly okay, good at this, you know. And so you just lean in, you know. And so you know, I am very passionate about really all people having a voice, right? Like, we are all experts in our own experiences.
Right.
We may not know how systems work or how to do something, but we know what we need and we know what we're passionate about. And if we can hear each other and then be humble enough to work together and figure out how the pieces work together, that is how magic happens, right? right? Like that's how things get done. And it just seems like Memphis particularly, but like, you know, all places are, you know, we have this kind of culture of young people should be seen and not heard, and that you're supposed to be developing and blah, blah, blah. And what I always felt as a young person, and what I saw and see today in young people, is that young people are often way ahead of the curve with what's going on. They are, like, whether it's technology, which is like is a huge thing right now. Young people know we have a lot to learn from them. And so, you know, what I felt like the space that Bridges, when I was working at Bridges for so long, 16 years, I met Frankie Dakin. I mean, that's like right there, you know, like that is the story of a young person who like seizes it and like continues that commitment. You know, what I see in young people is when you listen with humility and respect and compassion, you lift a young person up. That is how we learn to be good citizens. It's how we gain the skills we need to engage in education and what comes next. I mean, it's a really practical thing. And it's also about getting better results as a community. So anything we do with young people as partners as opposed to problems to be fixed is going to work better. And so at Bridges, we really made it our mission to help others figure out how to do that, right? Like, how do we break down that sort of those silos and bridge those gaps and like and create space for that? So.
Thank you. And Travis, what moment made you realize your creativity could influence others, and how has that shaped your sense of leadership as a young artist?
So my first experience, so I began with music really with the saxophone in around 6th grade. I started performing for my church in around 6th and 7th grade. When I first realized that my playing and what I created had an impact was after those performances, people would be moved. And honestly for me, I'd be like, you know, I didn't even play that well. I messed up or something like that. But I would see like there was power in what I was playing, there was power in what I was doing. So I took that, and it's been pretty nice. So in terms of leadership in music, I remember my senior year of high school, I was the band director because we didn't have one. So that leadership role was great for me, and honestly, I was like, work with people my age, that sounded ridiculous to me. I'm 17 and all these other people, they didn't really know. But I was experiencing music and I loved it and I was so passionate about it. And the leadership, it just kind of came with it. You know, I figured it out. I had some rough patches, but I learned there really that being a leader is important, that people need guidance, especially when I have knowledge on something that they don't, and they want to get better at it. So I use my abilities and I use leadership skills that I've learned and
Thank you. So now that we have a why behind the work, now we're going to empowering. So empowering youth isn't just about giving them a seat. It's about trusting them to lead. When youth are seen as partners, not just participants, we all rise. So, Shelby, how do we involve youth and legacy in our conversations meaningfully?
In order to really create a legacy, you have to realize that it's something that you do now. It's not something later, right? It's something you do now. When it comes to the youth, you have to involve them in this. They have to be co-creator of this legacy, not just as us adults creating it and then saying, here, this is it, right? You've got to involve them very early on. They're very intelligent. They are the future. We hear that all the time. And most of us in this room, at some point, are going to lean on them as we get older for our long-term care plan, right? And so, if you want to really make a change in your life or your legacy, you've got to invite them into the space. You have to let them be a part of it. That's where that ownership comes in. You know, they have great ideas. They're always reading, always learning, always asking questions, right? Those are all signs of things great. And if you exclude them from the conversations, then the legacy that you're truly trying to build will never really be what you really wanted to be, right? Because we build legacy with purpose, and we do it because we love them, right? So why would we exclude who we love if it is for them? And I'm just gonna give you an example. I have a very good friend who was trying to build an Airbnb business, and she was just paying $1,500 to go to this class and that class and building this legacy and all that. Never once talking to the children, but I know them. I know the children, I know her. And I said, hey, do me a favor. Ask them, do they even want all of that? Do they want these houses? Do they want that? And she called them up and had a legacy planning meeting, which I'll talk about later, and found out that they didn't want that. They didn't want to inherit all these houses that she wanted. You know, they don't want to be tied down. They want to be able to explore. Being from the other side of this world is huge. It's huge, and you want to get them out there. So the best way you can do, really get them into the conversation is to invite them, and then let them talk. Right? As parents, we have to be very careful, and grandparents as well. We have to be careful with always telling them what to do. You know, we did that until they were 18. Now we got to see what we poured into them and did it work. Yeah. But the only way we're going to know that is to listen to them. And what I'm seeing a lot, not in just this community, in just other settings that I've been in, is that we box them out of the conversation. And then when they don't know what to do, now we're mad at them. And that's not fair. So if I had to say one thing involved in the conversation, make them a co-creator of a legacy and not just people that inherit it.
So, Richard, what do young people need from adults and systems to feel empowered?
So, particularly in civic spaces, there's this stereotype that young people are not equipped with everything that they need to know to be able to make systems change. There is, this idea that civic engagement and being involved in civic spaces is reserved for adults, reserved for young people. And that's despite the fact that across generational lines, younger people and older people, particularly in this country, share the same struggles. And that there's a class concern that arises beyond generational lines. Social Security is under assault just as much as student loans are under assault, even though they may impact vastly different generations. Both are under assault. Both are affecting working class young people and working class older people. At this point in time, it's going to require both of those respective demographics to come together to be able to initiate change. But as far as what young people need to be able to be at the forefront of that change, we need that guidance. We need that leadership. We need those lessons from older generations, those lessons from yesterday that were so prevalent within the civil rights movement, for example, to apply to our struggle, to apply to our fight for today and tomorrow. And I just want to highlight some of the work that an organization that I'm involved in has been doing, the Equity Alliance, and give an example. Just last week, we were meeting young people where they were. We went to a AAU basketball camp in Memphis, and instead of relaying a whole bunch of information about how to register to vote, the importance of voting, what's going on within your city, your state, your country at this point in time, we wanted to give the space to those young men and women to raise up some of the issues that they see each and every day. And I want to make this very clear. Gen Z is the first generation, Gen Alpha too, the kids that are younger than me, the first generations to be less well off than their parents, their forefathers. And many of you, your minds right now, you may be thinking, how is that possible? These kids have access to things that we never even fathomed having access to when we were younger. But this is the first generation of people that will assume home ownership at a vastly later age than their parents and grandparents did. This is the first generation of people who will have a harder time attending university than their parents and grandparents did because of the exorbitant cost. That's not even spilling into affording child care, how much you make in wages adjusted to cost of living. So to say that we need help to will be a severe understatement. And that helps you look like ensuring that you are providing the lessons of yesterday for us. The lessons that you saw within your respective movements, within your respective spaces, because we need that. It's relevant, it's applicable, and like I mentioned, our fights are not different at this point in time across generational lines. Our fight and our struggle is shared because we are working class Americans who are seeing this trickling of wealth away from all of our pockets, young, middle-aged, old, to the hands of a very few elite, wealthy individuals. We need that shared organizing. We need to share spaces just like we're doing right now, to be able to come together, to share resources, to share lessons, to share stories, to share missions. So I want to thank y'all for coming out today and being a part of this right now, sharing your stories, sharing your experiences, like we're doing right now. So this is a great step. This is what young people need right here.
And Andrea, what do young women need to hear from mentors and leaders?
I think mainly, I know mainly, young women need to hear that they are enough as they are. They don't need to change who they are. Their voice matters, right? What I would tell young women as a mentor and a leader is that they need to have a personal relationship with God. Whoever that looks like to them, whatever that looks like to them, start there. And then take time to learn yourself, right? Your likes, your dislikes, what brings you joy, what brings you pain, what triggers you and why. How do you talk to yourself, right? Like, we are our own worst enemy sometimes. Sometimes I'm harder on me than I am on other people. I expect a lot more out of myself than I expect out of other people. I would also say connect to your discernment and intuition. The earlier, the better. And all of those things coupled together help you grow in self-awareness and then help you also walk in like your divine purpose. And then it's a lot harder for anyone to knock you off of that path because you know who you are, you know where you're going, and you know that God is backing you.
Awesome.
Travis, how can creative arts like music and storytelling empower you?
That's a good question, actually. So I have learned recently that among music, I am interested in many other art forms, such as like film and media in general. And I found that a lot of people around me use that for other purposes. Like at Alabama A&M, a lot of the rappers, they just rap about whatever. A lot of the people that make videos, they do it maybe for money or fame or something. But I've seen the power in storytelling, in actually putting effort into something that's going to mean something. So whatever art form that it is, so it's like a lot of people, they might look at rap as, the mumble rappers and the people rapping about whatever, but there's so much power that comes in that because there are a lot of people that really put effort into it, and that's something that I want to do with my music in general. So I'm a composer mainly, and I want to create music and stories that align with the music, that tell our stories as, minorities in general is my main focus because that's the groups that are underrepresented, they're underappreciated. But I want to I feel like music and film in general is just a great place to make our voices heard, to create, I don't really know the words for it, but to create opportunities for people that just don't always happen.
How do youth-led programs build civic confidence and identity?
Like the last three speakers, I'm just like, this is create opportunities for young people to do what they are, and what all humans are inherently desiring and wanting to do, right? I think, I think grounding, one, I would just be like, just get out there and do it. Like, young people need more opportunities to engage meaningfully in their communities. I mean, the Gen Z and Alpha generation are experiencing not only like a sort of a dark forecast of what they're coming into, but also this is the COVID generation, so they experienced a period of profound isolation at a time where their personal and in development and human development was critical, and so you're talking about folks that are like struggling because of that in some sense, but people are resilient, and so so many things shut down from COVID and never quite got back up, and you've got a community of young people, a generation of young people that kind of need more, but to be resilient to get over that, which they can do. They will do it. So what I would say for communities is like, do it. Like, if you're thinking about creating an opportunity for young people to be a part of anything, like, just go ahead and do it, but ground yourself in respect and humility for what young people bring to the table. And then if you do that and build those partnerships, like, you can't know where it's gonna go, because it's gonna be the product of something bigger than you could ever dream of right now, right? So like, that is, I mean, humans are amazing, right? And so like, we're inherently creative, we are inherently desiring connection and wanting something better. And if we can connect from that place and create opportunities, we'll do things that we can't even imagine right now at this table, right? And so everything I'm hearing from everything that you all are doing and have done stems from something that could not have been planned, right? It's almost divine, right? It's like, it's the divine inside of all of us. So I think if we just have the courage to go out and do it and don't worry so much about it being perfect, just go in with like openness and humility and passion, you will be met with that the energy you desire, and then something amazing will happen. So
Dr. McClain, how do you help you find purpose amid distractions?
That's easy. That's not easy, but that's an easy verse to use from there. But the word of God says in Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all His righteousness, and all these things be added unto you." So what I would say is, let first thing be first thing. There's some things we got so many things that we have catching our attention, and you got to make sure the most important thing is catching your attention. And she said earlier, God will provide what you need, but you got to make Him part of your life, and you got to make Him part of your planning. If you make Him part of your planning, He's going to give you every insight to where you can get to where you're going to. Look, country boy like this from Alabama, I would have never thought I'd been here in Oxford, Mississippi, where I live at. I would have never thought I'd seen the whole world. But I've been walking with the Lord all my life. Not some of my life. I have been distracted, like you just said, distracted, because I wanted some things that I didn't need to have. And you need to know what the right thing is. Right is right no matter which way you go. And we know when we're doing right and we know when we're doing wrong. And you gotta come up to the point that ain't the right thing for me to do. This ain't what I need to do right now. There's a lot of people that go and spend their money. What they do? Spend on things they wanna do rather than doing the things they need to do. And then they want somebody else to help them get what they need to have. So you gotta learn how to balance yourself to what you really need and do the things that you really need to do. And that's called what? That's called discipline. And we gotta be disciplined in every area in our lives. And I can continue talking that, but young folks got more than they really think they have. They just gotta be willing to humble themselves and ask for help from the older people. And understand that they might not be up to what you got. They might not know all the ins and outs you got, right? They might not know all the techniques that you got, but they're really smart. My dad is 89 years old. And the older I get, the more I know that he's smarter than I am. The older I get, I realize that because he didn't have all the access that I have. And you gotta understand that elders, they know more than you think they know. You just gotta make sure you use them to get to where you're going to.
So civic participation means more than voting. It means showing up, speaking up, and building community. So now I want to pause here because the word civics can feel a little bit intimidating. When people hear civic engagement, they may picture big institutions or formal systems that feel far away. But civics is simply how do we engage with each other? People, places, policies, and how do they shape our lives? So whether you're mentoring youth and helping neighbors get resources, starting a podcast to raise awareness, or just showing up for a local school board meeting, you're practicing civics. It's about connection and contributions and care. So, Travis, what does civic participation look like for young creatives, and how can music be part of civic expression?
So, the biggest way that I've seen civic participation in my life especially was this program that I was in for 2 years in the summer called Memphis Music Initiative. It's basically where, it's Memphis Music Initiative, but it's all types of creatives, young creatives around Memphis. We basically come together and we get to work in professional spaces. And then, so not only do we get experience from it, but we also get to work with people around us and see what it's like. So, and then at the end of it, we make music together. We make, so last year we did an EP. It was like 3 songs. We went through the whole process. Was completely us. Like we had help like getting equipment and whatnot from adults, but we made music pretty much with our own brain power and our own resources, right? And then throughout that, it was also just a lot of conversations about the state of the city, the state of music, the state of art in general, like, what people are doing, what we should be doing, what we can do. So that was really big for me, and I think that was one of the greatest experiences for me, or 2 of the greatest experiences. And providing places like that where young creatives can come together with each other and talk about things and, create, it's very good.
Dana, how can institutions meaningfully include youth in decision making?
So, I think that one thing I would say is we need to not consult young people like as an afterthought. Often we'll kind of go and we'll say we're planning something for young people, and we'll go and be like, we should ask the young people, right? Like after we're already done planning it pretty much and like get some input. And then, we get some input, and often we also step into a room with young people. We say, what do you think about this thing? And it's like, you've been thinking about it for like a year, planning it, and you just like hit them right off the get-go, and you're like, and so they're like, are we gonna have our cell phones there? And because that's like maybe where they start, right? Because like, but they haven't been on this journey with you for all this time, going to create these decisions, and and so it's a really inequitable conversation a lot of the time. And so I think if you really want to include young people, you need to build them into the organization as a part of the sort of foundational part of the work. That can be finding jobs for young people to do. That can be including service opportunities for young people to get engaged in. And then you're talking along the way about what your strategy is and what you're hoping to accomplish. So you're bringing young people along as partners. And I think you will get a very different results if you do it that way. And the other thing I would say is, and this is like just, I say it sounds so dumb, but I have to say it because we do this all the time without thinking about it. And I have done it so many times that I've had to learn. One, if we are doing work as our profession and we want young people to participate, but we don't want to compensate them to do quality work with us, that's exploitation, right? So we need to value young people's time and expertise as youth and pour into them, and that might be a stipend, or that's why I say a job, or something like a certification, like engagement. But young people, they're not just here. The youth are not just here to get your wisdom, right? Like they're also trying to eat and like, build a resume and like, and like help their families. And so like we need to respect that. And then also, so like thinking about compensating young people. Another thing is don't have meetings during school day. If you want youth to be engaged, we have to be willing to get together and have those meaningful conversations after school and on the weekends. And sometimes when we're like professionals who are like trying to include young people in our work, we don't plan in a way that's convenient for them, and then we wonder why they aren't really there. So I just say those two things are important.
Okay, Andrea, how did your military service influence your sense of civic duty?
Well, my sense of civic duty started before the military. In high school, I was a part of a group that did some community work, but more so while in the military. So, like the doctor was talking about, we have values, right? So, in the Army, we have 7 core values, but the one that applies here is selfless service. So, no matter where I was stationed, I was always a part of the community. Like you said in my bio, 10 states and 4 countries. I have served the community that I lived in, even though that wasn't my home or where I was from. I don't think it takes roots having been born somewhere in order to care about a community, in order to care how the community grows, the people within the community. So that selfless service really, really influenced my sense of civic duty by just showing up as I am, pouring in storytelling, giving people opportunities, making things happen just because you know it needs to be done. But yeah, selfless service is probably the biggest influential piece of the military that has had a big impact on my civic duty.
Shelby, how does estate and financial planning reflect civic responsibility?
Thank you for asking that. So, planning, doesn't matter what it is, but planning is a quiet civic act, right? When you're planning, when you're prepared, when you've got a will, a trust, a power of attorney, all those documents, you tend to walk tall and feel a little confident and kind of proud of yourself for doing it. But it is known that those that have planned ahead normally don't have to rely on community resources because they're prepared, right? And so you can't not do it. There are so many people that are credited by the saying, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. That is so true. It's so true. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about estate planning or planning for this setting, whatever it is still civic. Most of the young adults and most of the adults here, if you hadn't given that explanation of what civic meant, probably wouldn't have thought about it. Because the last time we had a civics class was, for some of us, a very long time ago, right? But how are we supposed to expect anything from our youth or even from the adults if they don't even know what that looks like? Most people, the first time they ever voted, and I said this earlier when we were just talking, the first time they ever voted was just because somebody told them to do it. I taught a class, government economics, many, many years ago, and one of the things that I discussed was political parties. What are you? They said, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican, I'm this, that, whatever. And I said, why? They said, because my mom is, my dad is, my parents are, right? I remember having a conversation with my parents and we were talking about civil rights and my rights, right? And my parents were people that were like, well, you don't understand the struggle. You didn't understand the struggle. We were trying to, be able to ride on the bus. And I was like, yeah, but I'm trying to be able to buy the bus. My look at being a generation under them is very different. And when we're talking about our young adults, again, we can't just keep talking at them. What does the community, including this one, any community, what do they have to raise civic leaders? How they understand what going to the city council meetings mean and why. But we've got to get away from the doing and get into more of the dialogue first and make it make sense to them. And even in sales, it's always what's the why, right? And what's in it for me? Well, if you spend some time showing how this act that we want them to do will benefit them now, not when they're 50, because that's not promised to us, right? So everything we need to do needs to make an impact now. So whenever we do that, that's gonna foster generational stability, and that's what we want, right? Isn't that all what we want? We don't necessarily want to keep building more resources. We have to, because not everyone has access to the same things. But think about and just imagine this community if we were focusing on the young adults and even the ones that have gotten past that age, that miss that whole civic, responsibility and what that looks like, and start, focusing on that. And then you'll see a difference. Because like even at our agency, even with YADA, we focus on stewardship. Even with the agents, I don't talk about how to be a better agent. I talk about how to be a great person. Because with stewardship, when you're good at that, you'll be a good father, a good mother, a good, whatever. So I think if we, draw attention back to stewardship and teaching and educating very early on and asking, because you gotta remember this, guys. These young adults have never been our age, we've been their age. So the expectation that they're supposed to know is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They've never been 55, right? I remember when I was your age. And back then, I wasn't making the decisions I'm making now, right? And now I'm, I feel better because I'm prepared, right? And so all I can say is, again, back to what I said earlier, is to invite them in because they are co-creators of this community, not just, beneficiaries of it.
Dr. McClain, what spiritual or moral principles inspire civic action?
Well, I think the thing about it, you need to actually, whatever you do it like somebody's watching. Because somebody is watching. We know sometimes we do things like one thing while somebody's there, and we do another thing while somebody's not there. If you do it like somebody's watching, you're always gonna do the right thing. And then you ain't gotta make an excuse for doing the wrong thing. So we have to do in civic, if you're gonna be in civics, you gotta make sure that you're actually being the same person all the time. So they can see that your service is not something to glamorize, but something to make things go forward. And we got a lot of our civic leaders put out one facade, and you end up being something else in your dog. And in spiritual life, God is always watching. And we always got somebody that we trying to influence watching us. Don't go to Walmart thinking you there by yourself. Somebody's watching you. And as a leader, you want to be the same person. You want to be honest at all times. You want to treat people right at all times. Not how they treated you, not the way they treated you, but how you treat them. And that's important as being a civic leader, being able to treat people right, no matter how they treat you.
What barriers have you faced in civic spaces as a young organizer?
So I really take that as a twofold question as to what I've experienced personally, in my barriers in the space, and what young people at large experience. So as Dana raised previously, she mentioned how we have to meet young people where they are, and there are a number of limitations, between time and between pay that are, within these spaces that young people should be included within, without second thought. If you're hosting an event centered around youth engagement at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, anticipate that you're not going to see a lot of young people there because we in class. I'll just mention unpaid internships, for example. That is intentionally intended to discourage working class kids from applying to those programs because we need those resources. We need that money, especially in a state like Tennessee that the minimum wage is the same as it was in 2009. If we're $7.25 an hour, of course, here in the state, just to give you guys a reminder. And also something that I've been afflicted with personally, just as recent as yesterday. And I feel as if this is shared, beyond just young people. We feel a sense of apathy within this system, navigating this system politically, we feel a sense of apathy. We feel as if this system is intentionally designed to not work for people like me and you. Folks who come from ordinary backgrounds, folks who wake up every single morning and punch a clock and spend time away from their families and come back with sore joints and calloused hands. We feel as if this broad system is not intended to work for us. When we see the richest man in the world be able to come into the federal government and break down the Social Security Administration's phone service so we can access our payments that we worked for all our lives. And as a young organizer, what I'm working on right now is with XAI in South Memphis. I don't know if many of you have heard about this issue, but to sum it all up, again, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, has come into South Memphis, has set up the world's largest supercomputer 3 miles away from Boxtown. This is a historically black community in South Memphis that has suffered as a result of legacy pollution, because Valero Refinery is there, Nucor Steel is there, and of course you feel apathetic because all of these major corporations are coming in and they're treating your backyard as a dumping ground for them. They're treating it as a playground for themselves, not a bustling community of your churches or your businesses or your homes. They treat it as a dumping ground, and you feel apathetic about that. You feel as if there's no hope, there's no way to push forward. But there's always going to be that voice in your head that reminds you that the power is vested in the people, not them. The power is vested in those who work in those facilities. The power is vested in those who share that congregation on Sunday morning. The power is vested in those who keep those small businesses alive every single day. That's who the power is vested within. And it's not going to take just me coming forward and sharing a testimony about this facility. It's not going to take just Representative Justin Pearson or any other official. It's going to take all of us, regular people who work each and every day, regular people who come together each and every day to be able to stand up and say, there's an injustice that's happening right now. And as Dr. McClain has mentioned, we know right from wrong. And the right thing to do as the Lord has called on us is to address an injustice where it is. We have to call an injustice for what it is. And the Lord has called on us to house the unhoused, however we can, to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, to provide for the thirsty. And when you see a vulnerable group of people, like we see even in our own community right now, this is a small community I resonate with because I come from a small community. There's a lot of people who are farmers in West Tennessee who don't feel as if they are able to outcompete the big companies, the big ag that comes in. Those are vulnerable people. Vulnerability does not know a skin color. Vulnerability does not know a class. Vulnerability does not know a generation. But change requires all of us to be able to come forward and to address an injustice for what it is. So that apathy is something that I've been experiencing as a young organizer.
So community power flows in every direction, not just from the top down. This segment is about bridging divides between generations, identities, and leadership styles. So, Dan, what helps bridge the gap between institutional and grassroots leadership?
I mean, I think relationships, first and foremost. Like, if we have to work to build real relationships, and I think it's really hard to do right now in the world we're living in. Like, we've kind of retreated more into where, even just like how many meetings that I go to now that are Zoom meetings. And like a Zoom meeting is really great for efficiency, where you don't have to drive and you can make decisions, but you cannot really build relationships in a Zoom meeting. You build relationships when you break bread together. You build relationships when I go and I see where you work or where you worship, and I experience your life in real time and real space. And so it's gotten harder, I think, in some ways. So I think being intentional about, and people say like, relationships, there's a real important, like, change can only happen if we can build trust. And we can only really build trust if we're in relationship with one another. And so I think that, like, to me, I think taking the time and being deliberate, it bridges. We also play together. it's a really important thing, is like, we don't start meetings with like hitting the agenda first, you know, we kind of like, we check in and we say, how are you, you know, and you don't want to let that be too rote, right? You don't want it to be like this thing you do and everybody's like, oh, it's that question again, you know. You got to keep it fresh, you got to keep it real, you know. But the reason you do that is so that you can be human first, right? And that allows you to be building relationships to get to those things. So I would say, you know, that is really important in how you structure things. I think going back to one of the first things I said, I think we got to walk with humility, and also, because like, you can't get to that unless you kind of come in interested, really genuinely interested and curious about someone else's experience and their perspective. And you know, and you know, that's how change happens, right? Like, it's not about the powerful making the decision and us asking for permission, right? It's about us coming together and like seeing, you know, what is our shared interest? Like, what's our shared good together? So I think when you talk about grassroots and like institutions, like, humility goes both ways, but often the institution has the formal power, and so, you know, it can be intimidating. So also, that's where I think breaking bread and going to someone else's space and like playing games and, you know, getting to know each other, break some of that down so that you can kind of work through the power differential and then start to build the relationship, build the trust, and then move together. It seems like that's kind of like, if you're not aware of those things, it's probably not gonna work as well.
So Shelby, how do you foster intergenerational transparency in planning?
Be transparent. That's really it. You know, being transparent, it requires some vulnerability, right? We talked about that earlier. And that's something that a lot of people have a hard time with. But transparency is necessary. When we're talking about building, you know, generational wealth, or not even about wealth as in money, just the fabric of the families and keeping them intact, right? Communicating, being transparent about our struggles. You know, sometimes we talk about our struggles like it's a badge of honor. However, it's just a real conversation to have with all the people in your family. You know, I wouldn't do this and ask everyone this, but it is a rhetorical question. When have you ever had a conversation with all the living generations at one time, other than a family reunion? Usually at a family reunion, it's about, let's just, you know, get back together, right? But what are we talking about there? We're having a picnic, we're doing the Sunday church, and we're doing the barbecue, but are we talking about building a family foundation? You know, one of the things that our organization does is legacy meetings, you know, so we encourage people. Although I agree about the Zoom, however, in some of the settings, the family members are far away. So there's nothing like having 30 or 40 people all in one Zoom meeting, drinking coffee and eating breakfast with each other and talking about what they're doing. Because the decisions we make never impact only ourselves. Never. Doesn't matter what I buy at the store impacts my family and what they're going to eat, right? And that's just in every area of our lives. And so as long as we keep that on the forefront, that our decisions are not our own, that they only impact us, as long as we know that that's not true, then we can start really doing the work, which is having these dialogues and these conversations and encouraging families to come together and not individuals going to other places and talking, right? You know, but our whole mission is to talk to everybody in the family. Okay, they come over there for one thing, and this is my team right here. I have to say hi. They're all here, the whole row. But anyway, but when they're talking to the families, the goal is everybody, because all it takes is one part to be broken for the whole system to be broken, right? And so you got to have a holistic approach in that area. But transparency is the core of that. Communication is the core of that. And then not talking about it. You know how they say, don't talk about it, be about it. Do it. That's what you were saying earlier. Just do it and not keep talking about it. So that's one of the things that I feel like just really is important to keep on the forefront of that. Is that we got to talk to them. Even if you don't have 5 generations of people, just a mother and a child should have a conversation, right? Life, and although we're an agency, we talk about life, we talk about health matters. Those all matter. They all work with one with the other. If you have a family, and I'll just give you an example, you're planning, right? And you're planning for the oldest person in the family because that's the one that's most vulnerable and needs the most assistance. But if you don't know what kind of Medicare plan they're on, or what that means, then why are you the power of attorney over medical? Right? If you can't balance your own checkbook, why are you the power of attorney over my finances? But most of the people will pick the first person that's closest to them, but that's not the best person, right? But the only way you're gonna know, like with my sons, the only way I'm gonna know who's gonna be able to do anything is to get to know them, because they're not the same person. They spend way more time away from us than they are with us. So I found that out. My parents found that out. I was one way one time and another way another time, right? But that was an influence on the outside. And so we just gotta reel everybody back in, ask ourselves, why are we making these decisions? And asking ourselves, are these the best decisions? And then if you look at your family and you say, I don't have anyone, none of my children, none of my brothers and sisters can do this job. The job isn't to go look for someone else. The job is to come back to these people and raise them up by giving them the access and the information and the language and that kind of thing. And so we see that every day. This is what we do every single day.
So, Richard, what must leaders learn to better connect with you?
I think that leaders must learn to meet young people where they are. And that is a very broad and general statement, because as divided as our issues may seem between young people and older people, our everyday lives are just as divided. You know, where you see young people, you're going to explicitly see young people. And where you see old people or older people, you're going to see older people explicitly. And I believe that Ms. Shelby, you raised the importance of family reunions. I've seen so many things on social media recently that have instilled the idea in me that, if somebody doesn't take one for the team, the family reunions are just gonna die out. Once the matriarch or the patriarch of the family passes, the idea of coming back together as a family, almost disappears. And we had to retain that practice of coming back together, but that extends so much more beyond just family units. What I mean by meeting young people where they are, don't be intimidated to go on social media sometimes and talk to young people. Don't be intimidated to go, try to stand in at your local elementary school or your local high school and share a little bit of the wisdom that you have. Share a little bit of the experiences that you have, because I'm just going to be frank when I say this: young people need it. And young people are at the forefront of every single major issue that flashes across your screen when you read news or you see the news every night, whether that's gun violence, young people. The leading cause of death among young people in this country and in the state of Tennessee is not drowning, it's not car accidents, it's not choking, it's firearms. So that there's that. And with climate change, we're seeing intensified weather events. It's more than just it's hot out there right now. It's only going to get hotter. We're seeing the flooding in Texas. That is a direct result of climate disaster. These issues are part of a future that young people are inheriting, and that the older generation is giving to us. Home affordability, young people are at the forefront of that issue as well. Livable wages, young people are at the forefront of that issue as well. So we need that guidance. We need people to meet us where we are, and that's not just the clubs or anything like that, young people, but only in your clubs. There are young people playing the drums at your church on Sunday morning. There are young people who are working behind the counter at your favorite restaurant. There are young people who are ready and willing to listen, as long as you provide them with a platform to be listened to as well. And I'm so glad that's been raised, because that's critical. Young people must be listened to, because we have so much more to offer than stereotypes lead you to believe.
So, Travis, as someone navigating young adulthood, how do you think we can build stronger bridges between youth culture and community decision making? As someone navigating young adulthood, how do you think we can build stronger bridges between youth culture and community decision making?
Well, I think the first step in that is realizing what is culture, like what is actually like what we've developed and that is good, and what is, you know, the culmination of all of our experiences, and what is bad, what is like doing damage to us, what is the culture that we developed that we should not have. So especially with culture, like I was saying earlier, like the rap music and all of that, like a lot of people will say like, oh, it's negative, oh, this is bad, but then it's still so prominent, it's still so very I mean, I see it everywhere. We all see it everywhere. And it's become so normal, and that, like, we have to recognize first that that is a problem. These things that we've created, this culture that we've created, parts of it is not good for us. It's doing damage to us more than it's doing good. And that's on both sides of the spectrum, young people and like generational trauma that's been developed over courses of years, and we think, oh, that's normal. Oh, this is what black people do. Oh, this is what, no, this is not what we should be doing. We should be changing this. We should be turning this into something better. And I've seen that a lot, even in my own family. You know, my dad does things and I'm like, wait a minute, so this is normal, you know, but maybe we should be turning this around. Maybe we should be turning this around. And that's where the conversations come in play. They're extremely important. We have to talk about what is good for us, what's actually doing good for us, and what's actually not. And it starts with, I mean, showing up, going to where the young people are. I mean, obviously, you know, we're not easy to suggestion. So if you go up to someone actively doing something bad or negative that you feel is negative, you know, they're not just gonna listen to it straight away. But doing something, you know, like, and my dad does it like whenever, like, sometimes I'll be listening to something. And at first when I was young, I wasn't receptive to it. He was like, this music is not good for you. And I was like, sure, I'm still gonna listen, I'm still gonna bump this. But like, it really, and I say music especially because that's what I focus on. It really has an impact on you. Like, we have to address that. We have to address that this music, it does damage, and it definitely makes a difference. And like, even like all other forms of media, it makes a difference. We have to address that first and then change it.
So Dr. McClain, how can we rebuild broken trust in leadership?
That's, gotta admit we're wrong. And to admit we have a problem. Admit that we have messed up. And then go up and make a plan to fix it. Some people will not admit when they're wrong. But you have to admit when you're wrong. If you don't admit it first, you're not gonna develop a plan, you're not gonna change. AA meeting said you gotta admit you're an alcoholic. And then you can start recovering. Until we admit that we are wrong or we done things wrong and try to make a plan to fix it, we're not gonna fix it. And I promise you, if you ever admit you're wrong and you start making a plan to fix it, you're gonna find yourself getting straight on up. I'm one that easily now, I admit when I'm wrong right away. I used to have that problem of pride, right? Mm-hmm. And pride is not something that you wanna have. You wanna admit you're wrong and then go and do something to fix it. And some people you can't go back and tell them, you can't tell them that you was wrong. Some people you just gotta just say it from a distance, I was wrong. I'm just honest. Some people just gotta tell from a distance, I was wrong. But you still gotta fix yourself, knowing that yourself immediately you did wrong, all right? And the government has got to admit they're wrong. Well, our political system has got to be known that it's wrong. We worry about one party. We need to worry about people who can get the job done. That's right. No matter what party they're in. That's right. I may register as a Republican this term, but maybe next time might never register as a Democrat. It depends on who the right person is. I'm not gonna tell you who I am, I'm just gonna tell you that I'm gonna try to get the right person in office, all right? Because it don't matter if they young or old, if they can do a better job, let's get them in office so we can get the job done. Because everyone has been affected by what the leadership does. In the family, children are affected by what the decision parents make, right? And so we gotta look at it before we go and vote. When we get ready to cast a vote, we need to know, forget about what party it is. What is that person gonna do for us? How do I feel about what they're doing already? Because it's gonna affect us eventually. A lot of us might not be affected by what's going on in the government right now, personally, but it's gonna affect you personally sooner or later. And so you might as well get it off right at the start of it and make informed decisions and say, I was wrong. A lot of people that voted last time said I voted for the wrong person. Now it's too late. So let's get it caught up and know that wrong is wrong and right is right. And let's get the right thing done.
Andrea, how do we bridge divides? How do you bridge divides across identities and communities?
I think the most important thing to do is to find common ground, right? Like, what are our shared values? What do we believe in together first? What do we agree on? And can we start there, right? Like, if you were a Republican or a Democrat and I was the opposite,
right,
what can we agree on,
that's
right?
Right.
What do we
That's
want
right.
to see? And also listening to others, but not listening to respond, like listening to absorb, listening to learn. And holding space for that, right? We all have different experiences, holding space for those different experiences, even if it doesn't match yours. So really, it's really about listening and finding common ground.
So that concludes our segments, and I learned a lot, and I hope that you all did too. So thank you all so much for your powerful voices and insights. Now, we want to bring our community into the conversation. If something inspired you, challenged you, or sparked a question, this is your moment to engage. So please keep your questions brief so we can hear us from as many people as possible. So if anyone has a question.
I'd like to say, really great, diverse panel, very good. I mean, everyone was on point with everything. Thank you for the seasoned people, but I want to direct my question towards the two younger gentlemen. You were saying about meeting the youth where they are. I find that social media does get in the way of that, mainly because if you're not speaking to them about something related to social media, they can't quite grab it. So what would either or both of you say as far as if you go and speak to a group of young people, how can you grab their attention? Because even in the schools, they have a problem with taking the phones out of the schools to teach them anything. So how would you suggest getting their attention and engaging with them so you can meet them?
I would say that the allure of social media among young people, among all people really, is the easy accessibility of somewhere where you can share how you feel at any point in time. And someone somewhere is going to listen or react to it in some capacity or respond to it in some capacity. And oftentimes when you are devoid of that in real life, and that extends to civic spaces where young people feel as if they don't have any voice because they've been dismissed so much. They've been told that they are not wise enough to hold those conversations. You go over there and grown folks talk. How often have you heard that before? Or how often have all of you heard that? in fact, from when you all were younger. And I think that allure and that factor that social media has, where you can share how you feel, can be replicated in real life, outside of the phone screen. And that can be replicated in real human conversation, beyond Instagram, beyond Facebook, beyond X, Snapchat, etc. And I don't think that has been replicated or worked towards to the extent that it needs to be. Even within the confines of our household, I don't think that there's been a persistent effort for both young people to not only receive the wisdom and lessons of their forefathers, nor do I think that there's been a consistent effort for older generations to receive what young people are saying. Are you instantaneous in your effort to say, you know what, you're wrong in how you feel. You don't know what this is like. Just because you go to school hungry or whatever, you go to school hungry, I had it worse than you did. Are you making the effort to one up somebody, or are you listening to a unique situation from a young person because they don't feel as if they're being listened to, and oftentimes from inner city schools to rural schools, these are public schools that are not equipped with mental health counseling or a caseworker, so they don't have anybody to talk to, even in that space. So at the very least, let's provide that space for them when they come home, in the comforts of their home.
So yeah, well, I can add on to that, because very briefly, so like I was talking about MMI earlier, right? It's, I think what he said was very, very important, because in school, a lot of the time, like a bad educational experience, I would say, is one where we're not interactive, where we're not engaging. But I've been to, like, MMI especially, we do pretty much all of the talking. Like, the person up front talks a little bit, and then it's immediately we're solving the problem, we're talking about it. So, and then I see that's hard too, because there are a lot of people that, they just want to sit in the corner, right? They just want to, but in these types of spaces, and I feel like this is, one thing is, understanding that they're still young, so fun, at least for me, has always been a way to get me engaged. Like I said, if it's a fun activity, like wherever we're at, even school, like if you do something fun, something, like our attention spans, they're not quite, our brains aren't quite developed, you gotta, like, it's meeting us where we're at physically, but it's also been some, things that really, what we're used to. So, I mean, and that, like, I get what you mean with about social media getting in the way, because, I mean, it's so easy to get engaged in that, right? Because it has everything that we'll ever need on there, right? The phone has everything we need, right? But I think taking from that and putting it into the real world is also a good thing. I don't want to take up too much.
Can I add on to that? So I feel like I'm in the middle of the age group, right? Like I have children that are just a bit younger than these young men, and so what I would say is relatability, right? So like, so what are they looking at, and how can you relate to that? And so, can you do the trends? Right? I do the dances, whatever it is with my kids, and I feel so stupid, so silly, because not that I'm above it, but so that humility, setting aside the ego and things like that. So how can you literally meet them where they are? What are they looking at? What are the trends that are happening? What trends are you comfortable doing with them, so they can see and feel that you are relatable and open to receiving what they're consuming, if you will, right? And sometimes it's just enough to keep them engaged, and it's like, oh, okay, Auntie so-and-so or Miss so-and-so, she's really cool. She's silly when she does that dance. She ain't got no rhythm, but I'm not even saying that's me that they're talking about. But it connects. It's a part of that connection, right? So you then put yourself on their level to a certain extent, in what your boundaries and what you're comfortable with. So I just wanted to add that piece.
On the same line, I know you good. But we got to communicate with the younger people.
Yeah, that's right.
And my thing is the listening part. And I know Shelby said it earlier. You got to be transparent, and you got to have some understanding, and you got to have some patience. More so patience than anything. I got a grandson. He's 15, and the guy he plays football. The guy that has a 7-on-7, he got a pretty good thing going, and they travel and play whatever. I used to tell him back in the day. And he, I own the Millington probably. But anyway, he would want me to help out, with the kids. And these quarterbacks, they divas. So how do you communicate with them? They know everything.
Right.
Yeah, I step on there and I know. I tell them last thing to go is the arm. I say, yeah.
Right.
Come on, let's warm up. Let's warm up. And after we get through warming up, it's Mr. Watson at that point. I'm gonna light you up.
Right.
So that's the only way I can get them, engaged and look at attention. So any other ways are ways to, to break that barrier, to get them to understand. You got to support and help them and guide them and teach them versus being combative. They got the guard up. How do you break that? How do you break that down from you guys' perspective?
You want to answer that?
I think I might have an answer. So I mean, and this is what I've been thinking about a little bit. So another thing. So I feel like also showing them what they could be, right? So, and I like being competitive, like that's a big thing with teenagers, I don't want to listen to you, I want to do it my way, right? But I think a big thing that my dad does as well, and a lot of people around me, they show me like there's levels to this, right? So it's like, I want to do it my way, but like my way is not going to get me to where I want to be, and then showing them like someone who's already been through it, like very experienced, like, especially with sports, right? They might be like, oh, I'm the best player on my team, I'm so good, I don't gotta listen to you, and then they see someone that's 10 times better than them, all right? So if you can get that, right, I think that's very valuable, especially to me as a young person, seeing someone that's way further along than I am, right? And seeing them in action, saying, whoa, I couldn't do this if I tried for hours, right? And then you can see like, okay, what I'm doing is not, it may not lead to this, right? I need to do what they're doing so that I can get to where they are, right? So mentorship, all of that is very important. People that, have already been through it. I mean, we've been talking about this, but like, professionals in general. So yeah, I think mentorship is very, very important.
You got a hand over here too.
Yes, Did you want to answer that?
Yes, and I would say that combativeness cannot be dealt with combativeness, and that issue is something that leads those who should assume mentor roles to be hesitant to engage young people, because this generation has so much access to information, more access to information than any other generation, that they feel inclined to think that they know everything almost, and that's a barrier. That's a barrier that exists, and I would say that when you are confronting a young person, because none of us have expertise in adolescent mental health care, to my understanding, or none of us are child psychologists or mental health professionals to begin with, but we always can lead with, okay, show me why you think your way works. Why do you think your way works, better than his way or their way? What is it about what you're doing that might be more successful? Lead with questions. Ask them and observe. What exactly is behind their thought process, as opposed to reiterating that no, your way is not right. No, my way is superior to yours. No, your way is inferior to mine. Let's open with questions first prior to answers, because oftentimes what we find is that our own preconceived notions and answers would be broken down to what they have to offer. You know, so I think that it's always important to lead with a listening ear as opposed to a talking mouth. Not to be rude or anything like that, but I think that the saying that God blesses with 2 ears and 1 mouth, you know, I think that goes both ways.
So I actually got 2 questions, but I'm gonna just ask first. This was anybody that's being answered. And so I grew up in South Memphis, and you know, as a child, so doing the South Memphis kids. And then, like as an adult, I've worked in a lot of organizations that provide resources to those people. And what I've kind of found was that there was a disconnect between the organization that's providing these resources and the people that actually need them.
Yes.
And so just wanted to get y'all thoughts on like, what do you think is the cause or what's maintaining that disconnect between the people that need the resources and the folks that's providing the resources?
I'll just jump in because this answer for me is going to be real simple. Boots on the ground. The organizations do not have people in the communities listening and asking what those communities actually need. They go based off of assumptions. They go based off of grants. They go based off of where the money is. Yeah, best practices. And it's like, what works for East Memphis and Carterville is not going to work for South Memphis, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, it's true. So not understanding the basic need of the people that they're serving is, I think, the core of that problem.
And I would say the core of that is also, in my opinion, is often seeing the people as the problem to fix. And like, nobody wants to feel that way, ever, right? Like you build community by investing in the assets that you have in that community. And in South Memphis, the assets are still the people who live in South Memphis, right? Like, so I think it's also a perspective thing. You know, it's like if you come in thinking you know what the answer is versus like asking and investing in the people as the answer. It's just like, you know, that is it. And I'm just like nodding when you're describing the problem. Yes, I know. But the answer is that the people are the answer. You know.
How do you get the people involved across the board?
I would say in regards to your question with organizations, the disconnect that exists between organizations and people, you know, that's really a relic from the justice movements of yesterday. That is an era that I believe all of us can acknowledge came about from the civil rights movement that I continue to highlight, because that was such a transformational period across communities like South Memphis, where a lot of that base building, a lot of that organization, a lot of that coalition building happened within the church buildings of South Memphis. Now, South Memphis has a higher concentration of churches than any place in the United States of America, and that's where a lot of our organizations took place. But the problem is that we became so disinterested in servicing real people in exchange for servicing an identity that we hadn't yet largely accomplished. And what I mean by that is we were so consumed by litigation and being lawyers and having fine piece suits and attaining a certain social status that we became disinterested in engaging with people that had felonies on their record. We became disinterested in engaging with people who have been in 201 Poplar. We've become disinterested in engaging with people who single moms that have many children that work 3 jobs because they don't fit the confines of that status. And when you have a movement that's led by people that don't look like the community, when you refuse to put them at the forefront, now I'll give you an example. We all know the story of Sister Rosa Parks and the trail that she blazed. But how many of you know about the story of Claudette Coleman? She came before Rosa Parks. She was a 15-year-old dark-skinned pregnant girl who refused to give up her seat on the bus. Yet we don't hear about her. The civil rights movement didn't elevate her story because she didn't fit a certain label. And that's an era that we can't afford to replicate anymore, because not all black people are not a monolith. People are not a monolith, and that ties back to meeting people where they are. the organization, the Equity Alliance, we host happy hours where drinks and food are on us. But at the same time, we'll turn around and say we can have a community meeting where people are elevating issues. We're meeting people where they are, as opposed to where we think they should be.
And what office
Okay, what office will you be running for?
The highest.
So we are at time,
Oh, okay.
but if there, if no one has a problem with, if you have to leave, that's okay. But if there was one more question that we can take.
Can I just add something? Okay. There's a movement in Tennessee. Have anybody heard of No Wrong Door? Is that familiar to anyone? Okay. So one of the things that Andrea was talking about, boots on the ground doesn't have to be dedicated people to advocating for those things. It can be businesses and business owners, right? So the No Wrong Door initiative is basically, if somebody walks into the door, whatever door that is, that there's gonna be a resource there, right? So although we're a full service insurance agency doing advanced planning, we are a no wrong door organization. So when they walk in and they're asking us about this, but in the midst of us talking and doing a needs assessment, we're finding out that they're homeless and they're hungry. The assessment stops, right? That's when you pick up the phone. There's so many organizations in there. I can't think of the one. I think it's with United Way, and I forgot the name. But anyway, we're part of it. But very new to it. But basically, we are boots on the ground. When we identify that in our business setting, we can pick up the phone and make a referral to someone, but it doesn't end there. To be a part of that, you have to be committed to seeing it to the end, right? So we don't just say, call them and say, get, financial assistance from this church and then that's it. We watch it all the way there and back because they came there for something, right? We don't want to just move them over there and then never address what they came to us for. The reason I wanted to just interject here is because all of us are boots on the ground and every one of us can participate in that, right? You don't have to know, I say it all the time, you just have to be resourceful. You have to know where to go. If you don't know where to go, find out, because you are going to be impacted by everything that happens to anyone. So I just challenge everyone to look that up, that No Wrong Door initiative, Tennessee is that, and you can be that boots on the ground, and you can be this resource, and that will bridge that disconnect between those resources. Because guess what? They didn't come ask me for utility assistance. That's not what they were there for. So the likelihood of that coming out of the conversation we have will identify that there probably was a genuine need versus them going to the place that is providing it. They may just want the money because they spent all theirs this weekend, right? And one of the things we were talking about yesterday was how it's funny how people don't have the money to pay for their lights, but when they get cut off, they can find that money really quickly to get them turned back on, right? That just says that they didn't plan it out. So get back to planning, like they just didn't plan it. But take a part, just be a part of that. That one thing makes a difference in all of our lives, being able to do that. And just because we're on this side doesn't mean we don't need any resources from time to time, right? So just check into that. It's called the No Wrong Door initiative.
All right, so as we begin to close, I want to thank each of our panelists for showing up so authentically. You've reminded us that leadership comes in all different forms, and that real change begins with real conversations like these. I would like to remind everyone that we all have a skill, we all have a talent, and we all have a gift that God has given us, and all we have to do is tap into that and meet people where they are. And do what you can do. Not everybody can go on doors and knock on doors and get to know everybody in the community, but do what you can do. And then once you touch someone else, it resonates, and then it's like a web, right? and then it resonates, and then that's how we get into civic engagement. So thank you again for coming. I do have a survey on the table. There's the barcode. Please, please, please. If you feel so inclined, fill out that survey. Feedback is so important. that's how we get better at this as well. Yes.
No, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
Oh.
Go ahead. I was just trying to say, yeah, I didn't come with empty words or anything like that. If y'all want to engage, somehow, if you want to knock doors, if you want to make phone calls, if you want to volunteer, if you want to become, a canvasser, plug in with this justice movement however we can. We're in the middle of our economic justice campaign where we're talking to people all across Tennessee, from Shelby County, Rutherford County, Montgomery County, Davidson County, about home affordability, child care access, wages. If you want to get engaged with the Equity Alliance, you can scan this QR code at your convenience, and we can plug you into those efforts. I'd really like to see some of y'all's faces again.
Thank you so much for that. With that being said,
Yeah, well-
yes, if anyone have any announcements for the community?
I get up a folder here. I work for the NROTC unit on University of Mississippi, but I also tied in with Memphis. And we have scholarships that university has available that many times people don't know about. And I want to make sure I let you know that they have those scholarships. And I left packages there that tells you the deadline for scholarship packages there, so you can be able to look at it. It's online, but I just burn copies. And they need to start, they don't need to start their senior year. They need to start their sophomore year, looking into what college they want to go to. And then in the junior year, they need to start putting applications in. Because by that time, they had a board, and they know they got a scholarship. And even if they are not doing good in school, or they don't have the greatest GPA, if they got a actual place where you can, a scholarship, where you can get, do prep classes first, and move up to where you can get a scholarship. So make sure you get that out to the community, especially in Memphis, because they take them from in-state and out-of-state. In Mississippi, they only take in-state students. But I just want to tell you that, look into these, because you don't have to be, you might have started out and say, I don't want to be in the Navy after you get the first semester, first year over. But guess what? You got that 1 year finished, and you don't have to pay the Navy back.
Yep.
You don't have to pay the government back. They at least got a chance to see what the college experience is all about. And let's make sure we give our children every opportunity they have to get an education.
And I will have that information out to everyone as well. So, yes.
Yeah, hey everybody, Frankie Dakin, City Manager. Thank you so much. Can we give Camille a round of applause? This is remarkable, and it seems like every month just gets even better. And if I can, I also want to give Brittany a round of applause, because it seems like Brittany was running the future leader section, but Angela was running the So yeah, I just want to make you all aware of a few ways, and I appreciate the panelists as well. Excellent job. So before I turn to a couple announcements from the city, I just want to say a word from somebody's perspective that has to run a large, complex organization, has brought some young people into our office in paid internships this summer. They have really elevated our game. And so we are doing even more because they're in the office. And these aren't just TikToks, although they did make a TikTok that did really well for our July 4th fireworks, but they are working on historic preservation. They're working on equitable expansion of AP classes. They're working on redoing a disc golf course that I didn't even know we had. And they planned a ballroom dancing event for senior citizens at Edmund Woodwell this next coming Monday as well. So these young people are really doing some amazing things, and they're they're not here today. They're actually all of them work 2 jobs, even though this is a paid internship. But the hardest working people I know. But anyways, there's lots of things going on, here in Millington for y'all to get plugged in and continue this conversation. So mention one, senior dance night. A couple other ones I'll just turn your attention to. We've got youth soccer starting back. So we have not had youth soccer in our city for at least a decade. It's open right now for registration. So if you got any young people that want to play some soccer, go to our website and sign up. If you want to give some feedback on what we want to be doing, what kind of programming for young people, we've got a survey because we want to expand our pre-K programming. And so there's a lot of ways for you to get involved in the community, get out and enjoy yourselves. Last thing I'll turn your attention to, because I love my friend Dana Wilson is here, who poured into me, and I would not be here where I am without her. But I also know Dana likes farmers and local farmers.
I do.
Dana, we started a local farmers market. We've got farmers market back in Millington every Thursday, 4 to 7. So Thursday is today. So hang out in Millington a little bit longer and check out our local farmers market, all perishable goods, all local farmers. I appreciate y'all, and I really do appreciate our Vice Mayor Thomas McGee for being here, and I know he's a leader in this effort as well. So thank y'all so much for being out here.
I have an announcement. Stephanie's left, but she's the director of the public library. But we are doing a free Getting Your Affairs in Order workshop. And we've done one already in May. It's a 2-part, and we have the other one tonight. So if you're still in this area and you'd like to participate, it's not too late. It's at the library. We start at 5:30. We're supposed to be out of there by 7, but we normally are not because we're still talking and engaging. But it is a free service. It's a conversation about what we've been talking about. It's an opportunity to bring your children, your grandchildren there. And then here's the other piece. Most people say, okay, that's great. That's the information. But then they are worried about the cost. I don't know if any of you've ever done a will or a trust or a power of attorney, but it's not free in most settings, right? But it is free with us. That is one of the things that are, as advanced planners, that we give to the community. We don't ask you how much. We've got people that pay $100,000 a year and get that free will and trust, right? I also want you to know that you do not have to own a house to have a trust. You can leave your teddy bears if you need to, but whatever it is, I just want you to understand that those barriers have been removed. So there's access to it, right? That's what we've been talking about. So tonight at 5:30, if you're not busy and if y'all are still in town, meet me over there so we can have a conversation. And I go over those things that are most important, and I give you tools to do it. And I just wanted to share that.
Do you have to be a resident of Millington to attend?
No, you can get this service anywhere in the world. We are national and international.
Any other announcements that anyone would like to announce?
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel. I know many of you, but not all of you. If you've interacted with me in the last year, you know that I work for Shelby County Government. I am your local bureaucrat. My office is actually in this building, so I'm this community's access to local county level government. That's my whole job, is to figure out why the residents aren't accessing the resources that are actually available. That's literally my whole job description. One of the things that we've been talking about for a year is creating a comprehensive directory that has everything from nonprofit to for-profit to government resources. We just got word from IT yesterday that we've made it through the EOC, we've made it through IT. Our directory will be live in the next couple of months. And it has over 2,000 entries of services that are available in the county. If you want your organization or your business to be on the directory, it is free. Just tell me your information and sign a piece of paper and we'll put it on there. And we'll keep it up to date, we manage it. You don't have to pay, it's not a membership, it's just for humans who exist in the world. Sign up for our newsletter so you can get those updates. And if you haven't talked to me, come visit me. I want to hear from you. Tell me about the work that you're doing so that I can include it in the work that we're doing and uplift it. But yeah, thank you, Camille. This is wonderful. Can I just tell you how wonderful you are? It's been her vision and she's brought it to life. I know he already said, but good job.
With that being said, if there's no more announcements, again, thank you so much. You amazing. Please take this if there's some left. If you want to take a picture, I'm sorry, if you want to take a picture with Black Mississippi 2025. But I mean, yeah, well, my crown is that. Come on.
Bring it back.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.